Like so many other millennials, Piker experienced his first brush with left-wing politics via The Daily Show and other Bush-era satire, but he does not exactly remember himself as civically engaged. I was a dumb college kid. I was just happy to be in America. He didn't declare a major in Miami, but after transferring to Rutgers at his parents' behest, Piker secured degrees in political science and communications in 2013. Speaking of which, let's cover that real quick, because I got a Slate article. And also Nathan Grayson wrote an article on, well, Nathan like 5 years. What is this? I'm against Piker working with the Democrats, but I'm strongly for Brianna Wu quitting whatever she does. Dilemma. Hey, just being honest, if our party works with this freak show, Jew-hating, loving piece of shit, I will literally quit my job because the Democratic Party would be too lost to bother with. Yo, I'm literally going to work with the Democrats just so that Brianna quits her job. I think I'm just going to work with the Democrats for like one season. You know what I mean? I'll put my hat in the ring for one season. Here's the Slate article. Who's afraid of Hasan Piker? He's hot. He's dangerous. Young men actually listen to him. Is he what Democrats are looking for? Okay. Is January 19th, the last day of Joe Biden's presidency, and in the eve of a new one, no one can quite fathom yet. I think this photo was good, by the way. People said they didn't like it, but I think this is a good photo. And Hasan Piker is preparing for the end of the world, as he almost always is. Piker's live on Twitch. He's at his home in West Hollywood, and a secondary bedroom is turned into a broadcasting booth. The boiling overhead studio lights illuminate the scene. Piker's in the center of the frame, his peripheral vision swallowed up by 3 chunky computer monitors. Behind him is a clutter of socialist potpourri. Cuban and Gazan flags draped over a minifridge packed with Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, a cardboard cutout of Bernie Sanders blocking sunlight from a window, and a plastic purple skull capped with a furry Soviet Ushanka. There's not much left to be said at the dawn of the second Trump administration. Wait, he's outing me from the jump as someone who is not simply a liberal. That's weird. It seems like there's a mention of socialist potpourri behind me. That's weird. Holy shit, that is a window back there? Yeah, it is. It's been blocked in perpetuity. There's not much left to be said at the dawn of the second Trump administration, so Piker ends his stream in relative silence, watching highlights of the weekend's Saturday Night Live. The thousands of viewers in his chat off to the screen on his right pump out more messages than one can possibly read. A few moments later, Piker bids them good night. I'll be suited up and booted up to cover the Trump inauguration, the first day of the apocalypse, Piker says. I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. For nearly a decade now, Piker, who streams under the name Hasanabi, has been one of the most famous political commentators in America. If you're a certain type of mainstream liberal, or a not very online moderate or conservative for that matter, you may not have heard of him. His precise class of celebrity is difficult to describe, but in some respects, he has inherited the role of the agenda-setting television pundit for a generation that ditched the traditional medium long ago, if it ever knew it at all. Piker streams every day, weekends and holidays included. Outside of a few bathroom breaks, he's typically on camera by himself for 8 hours uninterrupted. Tens of thousands, sometimes many more, follow along. Other channels on Twitch, the Amazon-owned live streaming platform, tend to focus on Fortnite stunts and other video game feeds. Piker doesn't play too many online video games live. Instead, for the most part, his broadcast consists of him clicking around the huge number of tabs compressed at the top of his Chrome browser. Piker ping-pongs between them, offering mordant insights on irritating New York Times columns, Elon Musk tweets, and Jesse Waters' meltdowns. His style is open-ended and rich with digressions, nothing canned, no artifice. And regardless of what he's currently roasting, Piker is assertively unscripted. Like many of us, he reacts to the bamboozling deterioration of the 21st century life in real time. Unlike most of us, he does it in front of an enormous audience every day with a chronic exasperation perfectly tuned for the moment. It's been a winning formula, and Piker seems to conquer a new benchmark every year. In 2020, back when he was still getting his feet wet on the platform, his stream peaked at 230,000 concurrent live viewers while he covered Biden's slim victory over Donald Trump, making him the 6th most watched source of election coverage across YouTube and Twitch. 4 years later, Piker broke that record when 313,000 people watched him analyze the defeat of Kamala Harris. In a digital news apparatus that is sharply breaking right, Piker is one of the only leftists standing. Of the 10 most watched pundits streaming on Election Day, he outpaced Tucker Carlson, notably Trump operative Charlie Kirk, who worked with the campaign to turn out millennial and Gen Z men. Many young male liberals, supposedly an endangered species, have determined that the more tempered and polite avenues of left-leaning media, the nightly Slate at MSNBC, the edgeless punchlines of late night, leaving them cold, Instead, they found a common movement with this 33-year-old socialist dicking around on his computer. In that sense, Piker is in possession of the one thing that the Democrats desperately want now more than ever. Shortly after the presidential election, when it became clear that the party was hemorrhaging young men to the right, the commentariat bemoaned the absence of a liberal Joe Rogan, as in an alternative media figure who commands significant clout within a loose contingency of disengaged males and happens to be aligned with the overarching left-of-center project. Who could be a bulwark against an increasingly radicalized Aiden Ross, Dave Portnoy, and Theo Vaughn? Well, here he is. Here is Piker. He stands 6'4" with a sharp jawline and ripples of coiled muscle. He's conservative in bodybuilding, gaming, anime, professional wrestling, and every other interest that tends to make up the media diet of boys of a certain age. His bulge and Calvin's thirst traps have started libidinal riots online. According to an unofficial census conducted by his community in 2024, his viewership is about 2/3 men. Slim majorities are white and hold a college degree, while 30% reported they hadn't yet lost their virginity. In the past year, oh, god damn. Yo, y'all are, dude, he outed y'all. He outed y'all as a bunch of virgins, dude. Libidinal rage is great. Libidinal riot is even better. In the past year, he has welcomed both former Federal Trade Commission Chair Lena Khan and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to the stream. Sanders, 50 years Piker Sr., passed through a week before the inauguration and thanked him for his role in the revolution of media. Even the Pod Save America podcast, staffed by former Obama flacks, who've long advocated for a more institutional brand of progressivism, hosted Piker and listened patiently while he ripped the party a new one. All this access has given Piker's show a sense of beltway authority that it never quite had during the Biden era. Evidence of a fledgling support to make him more central to the Democratic messaging. The Democrats, it seems, have found their man. Just one little problem with that. Piker didn't endorse Biden at the dawn of the 2024 cycle. Then he didn't endorse Kamala Harris either. Resting on the sheath of the samurai sword near the rear of his streaming setup is a MAGA hat. Piker wears it on rare occasions he approves of a Trump decision. On one recent occasion, he slipped it on when the incoming administration had a hand in brokering a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Piker is pro-Palestinian liberation, pro-immigrant, pro-trans, pro-choice, and unapologetically himself. Some of this is broad accusations of anti-Semitism and more, all of which he strongly denies, but has lately found Piker in an uncharacteristically defensive posture. His take-no-prisoners approach makes everyone, but especially Democrats, uneasy. For a while, a staffer for Ocasio-Cortez suggested the Congresswoman would give me a comment for this article on Piker and the Democrats' future. I followed up repeatedly, only to be told that someone more senior would have to sign off. The comment never came. Also, speaking of which, AOC literally directly messaged me after this article came out being like, oops, we forgot to respond. But that's, this morning. It's fun. It's all good. As I watched Piker prepare for what was coming in January, an opening salvo from the new Trump administration that aims to redefine both the Constitution and the country. So the thing on that is, I think they also messaged Ryan Grimm. He deleted his tweet about this. Oh, yeah. Listen, she's got a lot going on right now. As I watched Piker prepare for what's coming in January, an opening salvo from the new Trump administration that aims to redefine both the Constitution and the country, I saw into the future most Democrats are too afraid to fully consider. And as I've watched how the weeks since have played out, it's become clear how little time there is left to understand Piker's provocative appeal to a new generation of voters. The cost of ignoring figures like him is becoming all too clear. Hasan Piker loves America, or at least he can remember a time when he did. He's the scion of a Turkish family of some renown. Piker's father is one of the founding members of the country's upstart center-right Future Party, and an uncle, Cenk Uygur, is a veteran pundit best known for his progressive media company, The Young Turks. Piker himself was born in New Jersey but moved to Istanbul as a toddler. In his youth, he bristled at the chasteness of the country's customs, struggling, in his words, growing up horny in a repressed culture and plotted to return to his once and future homeland. At 18, he got his wish. Piker enrolled at the notoriously debauched University of Miami and chased his very own American dream. His education came second to intoxicating taste indulgences. A few weeks into his college career, Piker started working at a nightclub promoter, one of his first jobs in the U.S., hustling tourists in the strobing bacchanals of the city's nightlife district. Hasan knew exactly what was going on. He could get 100 to a club as a freshman, Uygur told me. Wherever he went, he instantly became the coolest person on campus. Like so many other millennials, Piker experienced his first brush with left-wing politics via The Daily Show and other Bush-era satire, but he does not exactly remember himself as civically engaged. I was a dumb college kid. I was just happy to be in America. He didn't declare a major in Miami, but after transferring to Rutgers at his parents' behest, Piker secured degrees in political science and communications in 2013. Nonetheless, Uygur remembers being surprised at his nephew inquiring about a job at The Young Turks, a publication that had already become associated with the spiky confrontational brand of populism a few shades outside the liberal mainstream. Uyghur put Piker in ad sales, but as far removed from the partisan edges of the company as possible, and he hated the job. You just have to sit there cold calling and being nice to people, Piker said. It was a horrible experience. No, this is my brother put this up. This poster was sent to me in a P.O. box, and my brother, as a meme, blew it out, or basically stretched it across a canvas and then put it, and now I don't know what else to do with it. It's fan art, though. It's hand-painted, too. In 2016, Piker managed to secure dominion over the Young Turks Facebook page, which was technically a demotion from his position in the advertising department. He took a pay cut. He was tasked with cutting together the company's TV broadcast into bite-sized BuzzFeed-style clips designed to juice virality. Piker attended to those duties while simultaneously breaking ground on a rogue media brand of his own. He commandeered an empty supply closet in the Young Turks office and converted it into a makeshift studio. He hung up a green screen and, after determining that he didn't yet have the broadcasting chops to rant on command, started writing scripts. The resulting videos melded perfectly with the Young Turks brand. Piker was scrappy, profane, horrified by Republicans, and annoyed at Democrats, auguring a burgeoning left-liberal schism that continues to color American politics today. Piker began surreptitiously interlacing those uploads with the rest of the company's Facebook library. The first episode featured a noticeably stiff Piker standing in front of the camera, wearing a lavender shirt buttoned up to his collar. It was titled, 5 Things You Didn't Know About Bernie Sanders. Piker called the series The Breakdown, and it became a surprise hit on Facebook, with some videos scoring more than 100 million views. The success was a testament to Piker's content instincts. He was keyed in on generational distaste for Hillary Clinton's short-lived Democratic Party, and he also knew how to synthesize the various tendrils of social media during the shock of the initial Trump confusion. One of his most frequent targets was Tommy Lauren, an early MAGA star, who was drafting in a similar wave of engagement on the other end of the political spectrum. The breakdown embedded itself in the bones of the Facebook algorithm and Instagram, creating a raft of fans outside of the official Young Turks channels. The first time Piker ever felt famous was at a Buffalo Exchange store when he overheard 2 people talking about a particularly spicy episode of the show. I was like, oh my God, he told me. People are really watching this. The attention clarified something else about Piker. He was hot, classically handsome in a way that became fundamental to his mystique. Piker was a chubby kid in high school and continued to struggle with his way through college, but after pledging himself to the gym in his early 20s, his body rewarded him. He shed 85 pounds, his shoulders thickened, his waist cinched up, and his striking visage conquered a certain corner of the liberal internet. BuzzFeed compiled a slideshow of Piker's saucy Instagram selfies, bequeathing him the name Wokebay. Piker pinned the article at the top of his Twitter page with pride. He seemed to inspire an endangered masculine fantasy in the fragile months of Trump's first ascent, a hunky progressive proclaiming the virtues of the Women's March, standing against alpha wave alt-right figures. One of the photos included in the BuzzFeed article featured Piker with a doe-eyed model stare, dressed in a gray hoodie that reads, I met God, she's black. Oh God, so cringe. The glow-up provided him a blueprint for everything he's achieved since. Is this turning into fucking smut? Yeah, we got some smut in Slate, dude. The glow-up provided him a blueprint for everything he's achieved since. If Piker could become yoked, then anything was possible. It was life-changing in the sense that it was a task I set out for myself that I never was able to accomplish my whole life. It gave me so much confidence, not necessarily about how I look, but in my ability to overcome trials, he said. I'm not necessarily the most skilled person in anything. I don't have a ton of natural talent, but I'm super talented at working very hard. Piker was already streaming on Twitch while he was working at the Young Turks, but in 2020 he left the company to pursue the venture full-time. The breakup was amicable. I didn't try to talk him out of it, Uyghur said. If I wasn't sure he was going to be successful, I wouldn't let him out on his own. My mom was very excited that the shelves made it to the article. Piker regards his Twitch broadcast as a natural extension of the work he did on Facebook. Online leftism, especially since Biden secured the Democratic nomination in 2020, has earned a reputation for being dour and nihilistic, eager to cheer on the pratfalls of the Democratic Party. But since his move 4 years ago, Piker has shown a willingness to be a team player. He has hosted voter registration drives with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. And when he filled out his 2024 ballot live on air, he reluctantly pulled the lever for Adam Schiff, whom he referred to as Adam Shit, owing to his staunch pro-Israel stance. Wait, I thought I didn't vote and told my fans not to vote. What happened? I thought I actively told people to never go out and vote. That's so strange. That's weird. Felix Biederman, a friend of Piker's and one of the hosts of the notoriously ribald leftist podcast Chapo Trap House, compared his influence to something like The Daily Show's cultural apex, which, tellingly, occurred when the Democratic Party was adrift following Bush's defeat of Kerry in 2004. Is Piker a tad vulgar? Does he engage in some heterodox thinking? Sure, but as Biederman puts it, that presents comparatively little risk to a pretty good reward. Piker's house is oddly quiet when he's not streaming. He's made the place into a palatial bachelor pad, all honoring his unique strain of bro-friendly progressivism. Bookcases pack Naruto manga next to revolutionary scholarship. An oil painting of Bernie Sanders depicted as leather-clad punk singer gazes towards the mile-wide kitchen island. The refrigerator brims with protein shakes. Zinc canisters in every flavor are stacked in a pyramid. Most revealing of all might be a sticker plastered on the oven. It reads, "I love being mad on the internet." In 2021, he purchased this house, the one that he and I are currently sitting in, for $2.7 million. It's undeniably lavish. 5 bedrooms with 5.5 bathrooms with high ceilings, polished countertops, hardwood floors, and a stately patio on the bank of a lap pool. Piker has made no effort to conceal the good life while I'm around. I spot, on top of a pile of torn open envelopes splayed on the kitchen, a letter from Porsche. There's parts recall for his car. Some 50,000 people pay a monthly fee of $5 to subscribe to Piker's Twitch channel, allowing them to tune into Piker's stream ad-free. Extrapolate those numbers that NBC did last September. Piker's estimated to be raking $2 million annually, a significant upgrade from the $65,000 a year he was making at his uncle's company. He has taken full advantage of that sizable bounty, which has ruffled more than a few feathers on both sides of the aisle. Conservative media loves to fetishize the material discrepancies of progressivism, so when a avowed socialist buying up prime California real estate was manna from heaven. When news broke of Piker's new abode, Fox News opined about the hypocrisy of a leftist living in upper-class luxury, while Ben Shapiro took Piker to task on YouTube. $2.7 million is a lot of money. I don't see you handing that out to all the immiserated workers in the Marxist social construct, he said. You can get yourself a tiny little shack and live yourself the Henry David Thoreau lifestyle for probably $30,000 somewhere. Isn't that funny that so many people make the Ben Shapiro argument liberal? They think this is a good argument. Anyway, Piker wasn't fazed. Months later, when he posted a video of himself at a car dealership purchasing a $200,000 Porsche, it was not $200,000. Goddamn. Wait till they find out that I'm never going to fucking drive it, he said, as a fresh wave of outraged MAGA acolytes filled his mentions. Does a socialist reveling in his abundance expose a political contradiction? Perhaps. But Piker has also correctly identified that in 2025, when Trump of the Manhattan penthouse can be twice enshrined as a working class hero, those contradictions are not nearly as relevant as they used to be. Also, I didn't purchase it. I leased it, but that's besides the point. Piker is a young man responding to his enormous windfall in a way that is extremely relatable to other young men. That, more than anything else, has proven to be invaluable to his cause. Hasan lives a super aspirational life. A lot of other men on the left don't have that same aspirational aesthetic to them. Taylor Lorenz, an author and journalist who covers internet culture, told me, there's a generation of young people who want to consume media from someone they look up to. They want to improve their lives. They want to imagine a better world for themselves. And a lot of people are selling that better future in a package that is hateful. I think Hasan sells them on a progressive future. Piker is happy to meet MAGA men where they are. I give a lot of leeway to people for having somewhat bigoted views, he said, without hesitation. It's a radically different strategy from liberal orthodoxy that, for years, balked at the idea of courting people who were too retrograde, too brain-rotted by conspiracy, simply too far gone to be marbled into a larger political project. It recalls an incident in early 2020 when Sanders was excoriated for accepting the endorsement of Rogan, someone who indeed has shown that he has held those bigoted views Piker speaks of. What did that liberal purity earn? Voters under 30 dramatically swung to the right in November's election. Young men in particular have been conquered by the Republican Party. 56% have voted for Trump in 2024 compared with just 41% in 2020. Piker argues for a different approach. A few weeks before we met, Piker spent a day filming content with a fitness influencer named Bradley Martin, who has 4.2 million followers on Instagram and who voted for Trump in November. Piker talked about housing justice and the vagaries of private healthcare on Martin's podcast. Then the two of them crushed 300-pound deadlifts at the gym. I think that's something a lot of political commentators lack in general, Piker said. They're not real human beings. What I do requires a tremendous amount of charitability from the audience. I speak in opposition on a lot of issues that people take for granted, issues that people have been socially conditioned to believe are the norm, and that the alternative is scary and dangerous. So people have to be open to hearing me out. It might make them more open-minded to my commentary and the way I see the world. Piker has reason to believe it's working. On the r/hasanpiker subreddit, home to 151,000 Marxist Chaz, there is a thread titled, "How'd you come across Hasan?" Some chime in to say they fell in love with his videos from the Young Turks or via a shout-out from AOC, but scores more accredit Piker for either their radicalization or de-radicalization. An avowed centrist recalls being fearful of the stigma of socialism until he watched a video of a guy who was young, sexy, and strong, debunking a right-wing talking point on a systemic racism. They've swung left ever since. Another poster recalls going down a much darker path. They were watching Shapiro and Steven Crowder and found themselves sympathizing with white nationalist rhetoric. Over time, though, the poster began turning into some of Piker's non-political videos. They found his personality charming, and it slowly drew them into the movement. By the way, that led me to where I am today and where I'm a democratic socialist, they wrote. And I'm glad I started watching him before I could vote. Let me explain something to you. This is why a lot of what like liberals do, this is why what a lot of like other liberal content creators do in terms of like disparaging what I have to say is somewhat damaging. And if they do truly care about like de-radicalizing or pulling people away from right-wing sentiment, the endless attacks against someone like myself unironically actually hurts their own personal agenda. Okay? Because they don't want to like address any of the things that I talk about, they just hit me on my persona or personality, and they constantly say I'm like a bad person over and over and over and over and over again, and constantly seek out like clips that they can cut to be like, this is a bad person, you shouldn't follow this person, and they make up lies. Now, that, of course, 100% ruins the charitability that random people might have towards me if their first introduction to who I am is completely fucking well poisoned by some dude who unironically hates me and wants everyone that is paying attention to him to also hate me as well. It sucks. They keep framing your person, not your ideals, and there ain't even nothing personal to disparage. You're almost squeaky clean in that regard, unless most who point at you. Yes, but it doesn't matter, because even if I'm not the one who is creating the drama, okay? Even if I'm not the one who's personally creating the drama, even if I try to be as like drama averse as possible, for people outside of my sphere of influence or whatever, they see that as drama. They see that as a guy who's constantly finding himself in the throes of drama. Do you see what I'm saying? They're like, oh, that guy's always in fucking some shit. And it sucks, but there's literally nothing I can do about it. So I've decided a couple of years ago that it doesn't necessarily matter. Just I will keep saying the things I've been saying over and over again. And that eventually I think people, if they tune in, even if it's for hate watching purposes, if people tune in, they'll realize that like a lot of the stuff that people are saying are just completely ridiculous, completely made up. You know, when people say I'm a controversial individual, are there controversial things I've said? Absolutely. I'll take ownership of that any day of the week. But in most circumstances, they're not talking about like America deserved 9/11 or whatever. They're talking about made up controversies that get a lot of fucking play on Twitter or Reddit, mostly brigaded. Them being mean doesn't make you wrong. With the Democrats so thoroughly out of answers, the party's approval ratings are hovering in the low 30s. After ceding so much digital ground to the conservative movement, Piker offers an alternative. The only question left is if the establishment can accept the type of coalition Piker wants to create. What? I thought you were like a Sargon of Akkad type guy until I saw you say you would drink the Liver King's urine to gain powers like his, and I was like, maybe this guy isn't so bad. So I tuned in and I was like, oh, this guy's politics are kind of the same as mine. Yeah. I think that's precisely the reason why there's a lot of people who come in initially as hate watchers and over time basically realize like, okay, maybe this guy's not a fucking piece of shit. Maybe I was lied. Maybe I was lied to. But I've rarely ever seen someone be like, I gave a shot and I started watching and I hated it. Like maybe there are people out there who are just like incredibly brain broken by liberalism or conservatism in general. But, you know, Piker likes seeing government employees lose jobs. Yes, Robert J. Christ, definitely. That's why I've spent the past month talking about how devastating and damaging and insane that is. Uyghur, for one, has some doubts. I know exactly how this movie is going to end, he said. There's 0% chance Hasan is going to become a corporatist, and there's 0% chance the Democratic Party, as is currently composed, will not be corporatist. So they will have an inconvenient marriage for a while, and then they'll fall out of love with him. At the end of the day, he's not going to give the message that they want. I mean, he's right. I will not change. Some signs suggest otherwise. At his house, Piker told me virtually everyone running for the head of DNC has reached out to me, but I haven't had time to interview them. We were sitting in his studio while Kaya, his enormous bed, a massive weave through our legs. Well, except for Martin O'Malley, I think, or whichever one is the most corporate. Ken Martin eventually won the job. But he too had his doubts about how deep his influence can get in the current environment. I'm not changing. That's the thing. I'm not above admitting when politicians do good things, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be a Democratic Party operative. That's just not how I operate. Some people play catch up with the Democratic Party and defend everything the Democrats do on principle because they see that as a way to improve their social status. They're just careerists. but I have a real political opinion, a real way I see the world, and I genuinely believe that it improves the living standards of everyday Americans. I think that's not only good policy, but also good politics. If a day comes where I'm side by side with the Democratic Party, Piker added, that means the Democratic Party has changed its ways. This was the day before it would become clear just how badly the Democrats were prepared for what was to come. Last year, Piker briefly considered quitting his streaming career. He thought about going back to school, earning a PhD, and never again worrying about the scrutiny on his life or his politics. Piker began to feel this way after October 7, an event that forced him on and every other pundit to witness every day the escalating horrors of the war between Israel and Hamas. Piker was a steadfast pro-Palestinian voice, and during the war, he demonstrated sympathy for some of Israel's assailants. This often put him in reedy territory. In one memorable instance, Piker interviewed an alleged Houthi sympathizer who went viral on TikTok for his uncanny resemblance to Timothée Chalamet. Piker asked him if he watched the long-running anime One Piece. The teenager nodded enthusiastically. The incident helped catapult Piker to the forefront of the American anti-Zionist movement. I don't think this was what catapulted me to the forefront of the the American anti-Zionist movement. It actually had no motion until, everybody decided to yell about it a couple months ago to try to get me banned to do because of that interview. Nobody gave a shit about it at all. Anyway, last November, the New York congressman and Israel hawk Richie Torres wrote an open letter titled "Hasan Piker is Dangerous," addressed to the Twitch CEO Dan Clancy. Torres called Piker the poster child of a surge in anti-Semitism since October 7, contending that the streamer holds a deep-seated animus towards Jews. Why is Twitch so untroubled by Hasan Piker's troubling Jew hatred, he wrote. If the KKK or the Third Reich were a social media platform, it would be Twitch. Piker was used to the routine drama of internet fame, but censure from an elected official was a different beast. In a story published after the letter, outlined a lengthy taxonomy on Piker's takes on Gaza. Among them, that sexual violence that occurred on October 7 didn't change the dynamic of the conflict for him, that Hamas was a lesser evil than the Israeli military. Meanwhile, Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the Anti-Defamation League, took to X and claimed that Piker's toxic screeds against the Jewish state normalized bigotry and laundered terror, imploring media companies to deplatform him. The controversy has started to affect Twitch's bottom line. As Bloomberg reported in December, a smattering of online forums, all associated with the Zionist streamer and infamous internet troll Stephen Destiny Bonnell, who has gotten into hot water for his usage of various slurs, have canvassed companies to suspend their ad campaigns with Twitch. So far, JP Morgan, AT&T, and Duncan have acquiesced. So, for the first time in his career, Piker is under siege. Well, that's not the first time in my career. He maintains that the quotes circulated by Fox News are cherry-picked from the protracted monologues of his stream. As someone who has sampled the entirety of these broadcasts, which are all far too self-reflexive to ever be reduced to a single talking point, I think that assertion is largely true. Still, for as much as he told me it's not great to be roped in with racists and Nazis by the Israel lobby, Piker does find himself wondering if all this fracas might signal a greater shift. If his presence is being taken as a threat, then perhaps the right people are feeling the heat. There's no way Jonathan Greenblatt actually believes I'm an anti-Semitic person. I think I'm more dangerous, said Piker, who indeed has called out anti-Jewish conspiracies on numerous occasions. If your project is to constantly propagandize a pro-Israel position, someone like myself who is openly against anti-Semitism and works actively to educate people on dog whistles and also happens to be anti-apartheid is more dangerous because I'm the one who's going to be radicalizing their nieces and nephews, and that's what's terrifying. Greenblatt has in fact only stepped up the anti-Semitism accusations in 2025. So for now, this is all Piker wants to do. Asked if he has ever considered running for office, testing his influence against the nation as a whole, he demurred. He doesn't think he's cut out for the scrutiny of national politics, and he feels as he is most useful to his cause in front of a PC. In fact, Piker often speaks about his dream of becoming fully regime-pilled. If the Democratic Party did bend to his ideology, he'd happily morph into a cheerleading propaganda machine. Not a liberal Joe Rogan, but a leftist Joe Rogan. When I posed the same question to Biederman, he wasn't so sure. Could he imagine President Piker? The only logical conclusion when you acknowledge the immovability of the Democratic Party is that there has to be a party that replaces it, he said. I don't really see him ever wanting to do that, but I don't know. Life will always surprise you. It's a point that echoes something Piker has said earlier about his unwillingness to compromise with the Democrats. Maybe if his plan works, he won't have to. A common refrain among leftists is that the liberal coalition in its ossified state can evolve only if it's sufficiently defeated. How does one purge its conservative elements, or expunge its corporate donors, or concoct a more progressive foreign policy? Through opposition, through primaries, through a categorical refusal to accommodate half measures. It is a conception that previously isolated someone like Piker to the political Arctic, disqualified from any real influence. But with the party in free fall and a growing understanding that the old rules simply don't work anymore, his dissidence has been given a rare moment to shine. Do I think that there are people that have basically grown up watching me and then got into politics and started getting lower level campaign positions? Absolutely, he said. Will they be chewed up and spit out by the machine or become the same feckless institutionalists later down the line when they actually do get some semblance of power? Possibly. That's the reason why I want to grow my community, he added, so we can force the Democrats to do the right thing. The following morning is January 20th. The day has arrived. Piker returns to his desk in a button-down stitch with a Texas Lone Star to take in the dawn of the second Trump administration. Piker's in a sour mood. He grows steadily more agitated as the new president repeals LGBTQ protections and junks America's participation in the Paris Agreement. He can hardly believe his eyes when Elon Musk makes conspicuously Nazi-looking gesture towards a crowd of MAGA partisans. He watches Hulk Hogan rip off his blazer, revealing a shirt that reads Trumpomania. Piker waxes poetic on American decline, labor solidarity, and the wave of oligarchic Christian fascism that seems to be gobbling up every Western democracy. America sucks. And as a nation that sucks, we're going to have a president that sucks, he growled, visibly more despondent than usual. Democrats sold the country off. We're an embarrassing country. And I think that even Trump supporters are somewhat aware of the demise. In the weeks that follow, once it became clear that a second Trump administration is poised to be just as destructive as advertised, Democrats are once again mired in a communications crisis, with Musk slashing the administrative state to ribbons, the specter of destabilizing tariffs, and a renewed assault on the rights of undocumented immigrants. Where was the opposition? It was another stark reminder of just how overmatched the party appears to be, stricken by an enfeebling inability to summon the venom, the anger the base is feeling. Piker has never missed an opportunity to express his wrath. The day after the inauguration, he flew to Japan with plans of waking up in the middle of the night to broadcast on Twitch during his usual West Coast time slot. If you recognize that Republicans are devastating to the country, to the globe, to the lives of Americans, and the lives of your neighbors, then you have to do everything in your power to fight back, he said on a recent stream, his face softened by the milky lens of a webcam. Piker was analyzing Trump's order to transform Guantanamo Bay into a detention camp for migrants, an action he believes is the first step towards far more heinous anti-immigration measures. It's a classic Piker fixation, the sort of thing that innervates his fury for the inert center of the Democratic Party. To him, ceding any policy territory to the conservative elements of your coalition is death. It only provides cover for the Republicans to push further, to savor more cruelty, to inflict more pain. I wonder how people that read this article end with the takeaway where they try to like present me as a radical terrorism supporter or someone who is not like actively trying to do right by marginalized communities. Like, it's got to suck real bad. I guess nobody really reads, so they don't really care. But it's got to suck really bad if your entire project is to be like, Hasan is a bad guy, please don't listen to him. I'm the actual true liberator of the marginalized populations. Like, please listen to me instead. I promise you. And what are my politics? Well, my politics are whatever the fuck Hasan isn't. If you read an article like this, you probably arrive at the exact opposite conclusion. So how does that work? Well, I'll tell you how that works. They don't fucking read the article, and I'm sure they'll say this was a puff piece that I paid for or something, which is insane. And once again, demonstrates an inability to understand how media works, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, that's why I kept criticizing Democrats during the election cycle. This is why I kept losing my mind, Piker said. I was like, dude, I don't want Trump to win. And it seems like you guys want him to win, or at least don't care enough to do what is necessary to stop him from winning. And here we are. There are more days like this coming for Piker. More executive orders, more electoral defeats, more tepid reactions of the Democrats that he finds anemic or otherwise annoying. The terrible scale of this American era comes rushing at full blast through 3 computer monitors. On the other end is Piker and 30,000 people who want to believe in a better future. You have nobody to protect you but yourselves and your neighbors, Piker said at the conclusion of that inauguration stream. Who knows what will happen tomorrow, but I'll be there to cover it. As always. Anyway. That's a good article. There was another one as well that I didn't even know was coming out. I didn't know this one was coming out either. But yeah, go show the article. Go read it. Go show the article some love. Spread it around. Show it to your friends and your family members. This is basically the written format of me whenever I do like podcast appearances, you know? And also, as expected, the fucking journalist that dare write that article is of course being harassed by all of my insane haters and their fans. This article pissed me off, but I see now it was mostly glaze. Yeah. They do that every time. They literally brigade the comment section of every social media platform. How do certain fans not realize that they're coming across as MAGA loyalists when they attack journos like that? I don't think they think. That's what it is for the most part. There was also a Polygon article by Nathan Grayson, who's writing a book and wanted me to be a part of the book as well. This tweet is a minefield, Jesus. Give you a 5,000 profile of Hasan Piker, who's the only lefty media personality with any cultural salience among young men. Will Piker be marbled in the Democratic messaging machine for that to happen? One of the two entities, Piker or the party, would need to change. Yeah. It's like literally immediate brigading. Why label him a liberal? He hates liberals. What is this account that I muted? Glug glug. Yeah. When extremely online weirdos. I didn't realize you love anti-Semitism and terrorism. Are you going to call babies valid military targets too? He really hates America. And even the young Turks avoid him. Really embarrassing puff piece. This is what I mean. Like, all of the weird, like, sex pestiny brigades come full throttle. Every time a single article is written about Hasan and Destiny, Ethan's fans swarm the replies after being told to brigade. Just some of the most pathetic behavior you're ever going to see. It is pretty crazy that, like, they actively do this. And it's funny because, like, I don't think they realize that that doesn't cause the journalist to go, oh, wow, well, I've never been harassed before by people who hate the person that I wrote a profile on. They think that journalists exist in this like separate landscape, that they don't have any political opinions of their own, that they're simply oblivious to the ways in which like internet harassment and brigading occurs. Journalists, more than anybody else, know this reality. So when you do stuff like this, you only make your favorite content creator look like a fucking asshole. Okay? I don't know why people don't recognize that. Like, they think that they're doing a good thing to make their favorite content creator happy when they engage in this sort of behavior. But all they end up doing is they frustrate the journalist, who obviously is aware of the way brigading works online. They're fucking journalists. They've been doing this for a very long time. Yeah. They still think they're holding you accountable. I think that's just a lie that they told themselves a long time ago, that they basically believe, or at least they must maintain believing. Yeah, Nathan got popped too, unfortunately, because the timing of his article. To be honest, when I saw the Slate ran a profile on Hasan today, I too was like, what are the odds? And then shit, this might hurt my book sales. This is the opposite of the kind of conspiracy Ethan seems to be suggesting. My book has been in the works for 5 years. It was completed last year. The release date today has been locked in since last year. All publicly available info. Jaeger08 Larson, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Polygon ran that excerpt today as a rant of a promotional rollout, which I've been planning for months. And of course, I talked to Hasan, in addition to at least 100 other streamers, for the hook, because he's one of the most notable people on the platform. Yeah. My professional opinion on Nathan is that he needs to chill the fuck out. Anyway, poor Nathan. But yeah, Nathan's book came out today. Twitch's Hasan Piker wants fellow leftists to know having fun isn't bourgeois decadence. A new book excerpt from Stream Big dives deep on Twitch's top stars. Games journalist Nathan Grayson, founder of Aftermath, where he also currently works as a reporter, has a new book out February 18th, which is today, that spotlights 9 different Twitch creators, their fandoms, how they got their start, and the culture of live streaming that surrounds each of them. You can read an excerpt below of Stream Big, the triumphs and turmoils of Twitch and the stars behind the screen, focused on Twitch streamer Hasan Piker, reprinted with permission of Atria Books and Simon & Schuster. All rights reserved. Despite a career focused on United States politics, Piker spent most of his childhood in Turkey, and despite popular misconceptions about the intent of political ideology, he feels no need to mythologize himself as the main character of a rags to riches tale, or a rags to rags tale, as critics regularly posit should be his ultimate goal. Instead, he says during a December 2022 interview from his home, he grew up relatively affluent in Turkey after being born in the United States. A switch from private to public school in 4th grade opened his eye to the cruel realities undergirding modern society. I saw the gardener's kid going to the same school as myself, right? And I was like, holy shit, these dudes are not living the same way that I am. I was taking this for granted, Piker says. And that is where I started realizing that there was something weird about the way we existed on this planet. Other bits and pieces of a childhood in Turkey further informed Piker's nascent political views. After former Turkish Prime Minister and current President Recep Tayyip Erdogan came to power, Piker found himself frustrated even by silly impacts of a socially conservative regime, like Erdogan suing his favorite political satire magazine because of the imagery he found objectionable. I thought that it was unacceptable for someone in a position of power to do such a thing, Piker says. During his early years, Piker's parents would bring him on summer trips to America, but it wasn't until college that he moved to the United States. This proved to be an eye-opening experience on several levels. He was so shocked, says his mother. He said, "I can't believe these kids, Mom. They're bored. They had everything that all these people around the world would dream of, and they were bored." The more Piker observed, however, the more he realized the problem wasn't the people. It was that this supposed land of plenty was not providing for those with less. The American healthcare system, he says, ultimately served as the final rung on his ladder to leftism. I grew up in a different part of the world where I saw not the immediate impacts of American imperialism, but the secondary shockwaves, Piker says. But then seeing that this service that should be afforded to every single person unconditionally was paywalled, it really was insane. That was definitely the final straw for me to really tilt over in the anti-capitalist direction. And so Piker embraced socialism, a political ideology that encompasses a wide range of social and economic beliefs, but which fundamentally argues that workers or a central governing body should control the means of production, aka buildings and tools that create basic necessities, goods, and services, instead of private companies, which generally prioritize profits above all else. Socialists like Piker believe more of the benefits of collective labor should be going to individual workers rather than companies and bosses who rarely, if ever, do the lion's share of the work. Socialists in the United States are often critical of both the Republican and Democratic parties, both of which they argue continually prop up corporate interests, even on rare occasions when their rhetoric suggests otherwise. Proponents of socialism often push for socialized systems like universal health care and a universal basic income, arguing that a society truly for and by the people should meet everyone's basic needs. Piker's path to Twitch was a little more circuitous than his one to socialism. He grew up playing pirated video games in Turkey, where legit copies of big hits were hard to come by. For a time, games functioned as his North Star. He regularly drew video game characters and aspired to become an illustrator for a video game developer. But Piker went on to abandon that hobby after his first year of college. Even during his self-described normie years, however, he maintained a familiarity with the gaming space. After college, Piker ended up getting a job with the Young Turks, a progressive-leaning online news program founded by his uncle Cenk Uygur. Around this time in 2014, a right-leaning reactionary movement within video games called Gamergate began to take off on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Piker, who was producing leftist commentary videos for the Young Turks, found himself sharing online real estate with a movement that would go on, pioneer tactics, and produce stars for the alt-right. I saw the YouTube commentary space infested with these neck-bearded weirdos that were super right-wing, says Piker. I mean, they fucking hated me. They were not fond of me at all. They were not fond of the Young Turks. They were blowing up. They were gaining a lot of prominence. And a lot of gamers were being radicalized by these commentators that made themselves out to be centrist, but clearly weren't. You know what's really funny about that? It's happening again. The Biden administration brought it back in a big way, and now it's once again going through that same exact fucking cycle. Also, Jaeger Larson, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Arc, which is, by the way, still ongoing. Yes. Yeah. They're not mentioning it because it's ongoing. Hype Train level 5. On the other side of the political spectrum, Piker was finding success with a Facebook show he'd created called Breakdown, in which he took a punchy, crunchy approach to analyzing buzzy topics like millennial entitlement and Trump's Muslim ban. But after a while, he began to feel he was hitting a ceiling. Piker is kind of irrepressible, I think is the right way to describe it, says Uygur, Piker's former boss and current / always uncle. As soon as he's doing great on Facebook, he's thinking, oh, I got to expand to a different thing that will give me a different skill set and bring in new eyes. Piker largely concurs with that characterization of events, with the caveat that his uncle's company wasn't paying him enough. They basically got other hosts on Breakdown instead of giving me more money to work with, says Piker. I had no control over that, and I felt that I was always going to be in my uncle's shadow no matter what if I stayed there. And I wanted to get better at speaking off the cuff because I was horrible at it. Piker wanted to build a living, breathing community, one united around his principles. He felt that in order to accomplish his goals, he'd need to meet people where they were at, not where po-faced political scholars wanted them to be. I wanted to show people authentically that you can be leftist and have fun, says Piker. It doesn't have to be about constantly woke scolding people and appearing as the biggest joy killer, as though having fun is actually bourgeois decadence. Others who followed in Piker's wake, like a smaller leftist Twitch streamer named Mike from PA Buyer, see this as a core element of his appeal. Piker is, in his person, a refutation of a lot of the stereotypes of the left, right? He's large, strong, attractive, funny guy who you want to be friends with. But he also has the values of the left, says Bayer, who was previously collaborated with Piker. He can just refute in himself a lot of the stereotypes about soy boy, blue-haired cringe, you know? The idea that if you vote for the liberals, they won't let you laugh at jokes. He just refutes all of that instantly. Marcus DJ Wheat Graham, a streamer since the earliest days of the medium and a broadcast journalism major before that, sees in Piker a continuation, not just of irreverent political pundits like Jon Stewart, but also shock jocks like Howard Stern. Piker is unafraid. I don't even remember this glazing session. What the fuck? Yeah, it's now in a book. Mike from PA Bayer. Like, it's not just in an article. Understand, chatters, that this glaze is literally written in print in a Simon Schuster publication. Okay? It's literally in print. It's in fucking print. They didn't even get your username right, which is even funnier. Okay. It is literature. It's permanent. It will never go away. Published glaze. Piker is unafraid to communicate complex points using vulgar language. If a viewer comes at him with an idea he finds odious or unsavory, he's just as likely to make a joke about sleeping with their mom as he is to boot them from chat. Often he'll do both. Shock jock humor is always going to be an entertaining style of content, says Graham. I think that it transforms and shifts a little bit over time. Where you look at the shock jocks of even 20 years ago, whether it's on the radio or whatever, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of homophobia, there's a lot of shock for the wrong reasons. I think the shock jocks of today are more creative and clever. It's not just about being a bunch of degenerates. You've got Piker, who's kind of a shock jock, definitely in a political world, knows how to talk about things in a different way, the way he presents his positions and so on. Piker only really found himself in his current course following the 2018 Fortnite boom. Alongside millions of other people he watched then, Twitch kingpin Tyler Ninja Blevins. I missed 100 gifted subs. That's crazy. Demon Girl Remy, thank you for the 10 gifted. Maldi, thank you for the 5 gifted. And Xylax, thank you for the 100 gifted. Level 7 hype train. God damn. Why? Play the sensationally popular Battle Royale game with rap superstar Drake, and everything clicked into place. He needed to be on Twitch. He was already playing Fortnite for hours each day, and he was doing so with journalists and podcasters like the host of the leftist show Chapo Trap House, who similarly endeavored to change people's preconceived notions of leftism by embracing an edgier vibe. Why not broadcast it? I could play Fortnite and have these conversations that I can make entertaining and interesting commentary, says Piker. So I strapped the camera to my PlayStation 4 and started streaming. I didn't miss 100 gifted subs. I just said Xylax. I got 17 people in my first stream, 35 people after that. And that's how I started in the space. Kawaii Girl, thank you for the 10 gifted. Piker did not want his Twitch channel to grow explosively, at least not at first. He'd watched gaming communities, forums, and subreddits get overrun by alt-right elements, and he came to understand the delicate ecosystem that is a new online community. After all, it only takes a handful of loud, determined bad actors to chase away hundreds of thousands of well-meaning individuals. Bluebird Daily, thank you for the 5 gifted. Think of it like going to a bar where somebody's violently drunk or a restaurant where several screaming babies. If you encounter the same unpleasant disruption a few times in a row, you're probably going to give up on coming back. I didn't want to be mentioned in mainstream spaces because that opens my community growth, says Piker. When I asked him about that interaction, that changes the speed. Growing at a deliberate pace allowed Piker to be more hands-on in curating his community. Like other streamers, he relied on moderators to put the riffraff in timeout or banned him outright. But he also gained a reputation for wading in the muck himself. To this day, Piker pretty regularly calls out chatters who habitually disrupt the flow of conversation or are clearly trying to egg him on. Jaeger Larson, thank you for the 47 gifted subs. Hassan's new pharmacist, thank you for the 5 gifted. Consistently making examples of the worst, he believes, has allowed him to create an environment in which he's able to actually engage with chat, unlike many other streamers of his size. I think that's why I've been able to navigate through the space and maintain a community of 30 to 40,000, sometimes 150,000 people simultaneously, says Piker, where I can still have a back and forth conversation with anyone and everyone and do that in a productive manner while I'm talking about risky things that most streamers would never even consider talking about. Members of Piker's community agree with this assessment. Jaded Shade, thank you for the 20 gifted. Wi-Fi Till, thank you for the 5 gifted. Even for a Twitch streamer, Piker's intense about keeping up with his chat, says Salem Saber Hagen, a fan who runs a popular Piker meme account on Instagram called Hasanabi Posting. Hasanabi Posting mention. Also in the news and also in print. That's crazy. Express Exchange, thank you for the 5 gifted. 50,000 people can be watching, chat whizzing by, and it'll catch one of us joking, asking questions, or talking shit. And of course, the odds of him actually going back and forth with chatters makes them even more eager to interact. It tickles this little social need inside of all of us, I think, for better or for worse. By many measures, Piker grew quickly, despite his best efforts to keep everyone from piling into the pool at once. Even in 2019 and early 2020, when he was establishing himself, regular audiences of hundreds grew to audiences of thousands. In early 2019, you are so fucking evil. Why? Gray Ratchet, thank you for the 5 gifted. Are you testing out whether or not I snipe shit even when I'm reading an article? Is that what it is? Is this, did you just want to be the example that you saw in print? Is that what happened? Dummy. Before long, Hasan Scamcoin, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Cap Dre, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Baird US, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Before long, Piker and the Young Turks came to what Uyghur calls a mutual decision to separate due to both Piker's desire for independence and the potential for his unconstrained commentary to be associated with the Young Turks. Working outside the bounds of mainstream media, but still running a more traditional network than Piker, Uyghur now believes that his nephew's ascent was inevitable. The Young Turks were not as large as mainstream media, but we don't get the same leeway as Piker because we still have to be cognizant of advertisers generally and other companies. When you're a one-man shop on Twitch, you can say not only the things that are true like we do, but you can say it in an irreverent way that audiences and especially young audiences connect to. And so a guy like Piker was bound to arise. He's just particularly adept at it. So he was the perfect guy for the perfect time. Quick Draw Dan, thank you for the 10 gifted. By the time 2020 rolled around, Twitch audiences began to regard Piker not just as a worthwhile follow, but as indispensable viewing. I did look like a caveman back in the day. It's crazy how I went on for so long looking the way I did. Bard of Prey, thank you for the 10 gifted. This is because in a year of the pandemic and election-born unpredictability, he did not simply report the news. Instead, he cut through the clutter. Catboy Collector, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Curated the chaos in a distinctly modern fashion. Instead of reading off a teleprompter or arguing, Schwelmer Hefe, thank you for the 5 gifted. Okay, guys, stop gifting. Dual artist, stop gifting. He keeps cutting away from the actual article that I'm reading. Okay. Holy shit. Level 9 hype train. That's crazy. Curated the chaos in distinctly modern fashion. Instead of reading off a teleprompter or arguing with talking head. Tizzy Hustle, thank you for the 5. DeJeans, thank you for the 5. Dual Artist, thank you for the 5 gifted. Now that you're getting mainstream coverage, do you think you're basically the old guard and some new shit needs to pop off? Berkeley Pit Power Swimmer. Dude, this is nothing. I'm getting a couple like profiles from, this is literally from 2 years ago. It's just only coming out now because the book's coming out now. Chiron CT, thank you for the 5 gifted. Lisbo, thank you for the 5 gifted. The Sov, Cape Sierra, thank you for the 10 gifted. Arania, thank you for the 5 gifted. Demon Girl Lemmy, thank you for the 10 gifted. He's finally thanking you guys. I mean, I always thank like the gifted subs. Yeah, I've had NBC and New York Times profiles. The Slate article does not put me in the old guard camp. Emily Giselle, thank you for the 5. Mike Robot, thank you for the 5. Filibusta, thank you for the 5. Vekanon, thank you for the 5. Make Beanie Baby. Okay, I'm done. Stop. I'm done. I got to keep reading this article. Raygon Scotty, thank you for the 5. Instead of reading off a teleprompter or arguing with talking heads, he pulled information from a variety of sources, web browser bristling with links to breaking news on Twitter and YouTube, as well as networks like CNN and Fox News. He used the same tools any of us might have access to, and viewers saw what he was, his web browser, a chat panel, and a video feed of Piker himself. There was nothing fancy about it, but that was part of the appeal. Piker effectively showed his work, earning more immediate trust in the distant suit-clad anchors on mainstream networks. And if somebody doubted him, they could say as much in chat, at which point he'd either throw down with them, verbally of course, or correct the record. As Vice put in a piece about Piker's coverage of the 2020 presidential election, while your parents were most likely watching CNN's John King tap around the electoral map on a giant touchscreen, Piker sorted through exit polls and early reporting the same way I did, clicking frantically between tabs of different news sites, YouTube streams, and various chats. Last night I watched Piker and his guests play for time as he clicked on the wrong tab in his disorganized browser at least 3 times. I saw myself and the way that I engage with politics and the news, in not just Piker's political opinions, but the way he uses the internet itself. Piker is able to identify and discuss that politician's tweet, the way that reporters analyze the news and comment on it in articles and on social media, and the raw polling data in a way that helps explain our current moment. And he does it in a way that makes politics legible and understandable, even at its most cruel and confusing. Byer believes old news media institutions are crumbling away precisely because they fail to take advantage of the sorts of tools to which Piker and himself have access. If there's breaking news, I have 4,000 people watching in chat, says Byer. Someone could bring me official stuff right away. I can also take that information that people are getting to me and try to teach my audience how to be less susceptible to fake news, to be skeptical, and how to interpret information and look at sources and who's saying things. And so I think the generation gap is the biggest reason that old forms of media are dying, because they don't take advantage of the opportunities and they don't provide the interactivity, which I think the younger generations want from their content. By the way, Michael from Pennsylvania said this again, and I repeat, 2 years ago. Okay? This book was, we were interviewed 2 years ago. Moreover, Piker provided context through a coherent lens. The systems we've relied upon for decades, he posited, are failing us because they're built to turn a quick and dirty profit, not to last. This positioned him as a refreshing alternative to mainstream news in the eyes of fed-up millennials and Zoomers, where even liberal networks were, at most, only willing to tickle at the idea that the capitalist status quo might be failing the broader populace. Piker made that case on no uncertain terms every single day. For viewers, it was like having a doctor finally diagnose a sickness after years of being told nothing was wrong. There was relief in finding someone who could tell them effectively that they were not crazy. This, in part, is why Piker is able to perform the Herculean task of functioning as a hybrid political commentator / news network for 8 hours plus per day. The principal characters might change, but the underlying causes of America's biggest problems remain the same. This is something I say all the time. Anonymous Gifter, thank you for the gift, 6 gifted subs. Aisha Esquire, thank you for the 10. Half Note the Bard, thank you for the 5. Tricks001, thank you for the 10. Dramatic Goldfish, thank you for the 5. Shonda Black, thank you for the 5. About 350, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Mikester 96, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Raygun Scotty, thank you for the 5. Mick Beanie Baby, thank you for the 5. Vekanon, thank you for the 5. Filibuster, thank you for the 5. Emily Giselle 23, thank you for the 5. Pooletariat, Leaf Baby, thank you. I have a worldview. What? Whispers, thank you for the 10. I have a worldview and a foundation that I've built on what I believe in and what I want to say about any particular subject. The way things are in America and all around the world really is that these systems of oppression don't necessarily change. Sometimes I'll pull up a video from 2016 and I'll be like, this is the exact same thing I said in 2016 about abortion. And unfortunately, it's still the exact same thing I would say about abortion, police brutality, labor rights, wealth inequality, you name it. None of those issues have been solved. So I already have a lot of things that I've said and a lot of things I believe that I find myself repeating. This is not to say Piker is infallible, nor does he regard himself that way. He regularly tells viewers that he's just a normal guy, that if he can grasp a concept, anybody can. The rest is a collective effort. In some cases, he leans on his chat. Far more media literate than the average band of Twitch viewers to pull up and fact check information. Oftentimes, though, he trusts the expertise of traditional journalists. There's a lot legacy media still does that someone like myself will never do, says Piker. In my opinion, they should never do op-ed stuff. They should keep doing journalism instead, good journalism, because that is the most important part of the job. Whether I agree with them or not, whether I agree with the publishers or not, whether I yell about the New York Times or the Washington Post regularly, it doesn't change the reality that they're still doing something that is necessary and incredibly important. The book is called The Triumphs and Turmoils, Twitch, and the Stars Behind the Screen. Longtime games journalist Nathan Grayson sits down with the biggest stars of Twitch, creators who help make the platform into a billion-dollar global business. Goddamn. Mac Bethel, thank you for the 5 gifted. Gangrous, thank you for the 5 gifted. Obligatory Hasan. Glaze. Okay. Yeah, buy the book. Glaze like a Christmas ham, but you've earned it. What do you expect? You want Nathan to... Thanks for reading. That's my book, Lamau. Hell yeah, Nathan. That was fantastically written. Chat, what do you expect? Do you expect Nathan to be like, this guy fucking sucks? He sucks. He sucks ass. He's a bad guy. I've been watching him for years, but I think he sucks. You'll be like, everything's glaze, man. It's not just glaze. It's literally glaze in a literary format. Different, you know? When it's in print, it's different. Explain why he didn't call you a terrorist. Yeah, my own community loves constantly complaining. Like as though they love LARPing as though they're haters. Draco, Swagly, about 350, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. My own goddamn community loves complaining as though they love LARPing as though they're haters. It'd be like, why isn't he saying you love terrorism in the book? Fuck you in your house. You should be living naked in homes in a fucking barrel like gay Diogenes. Why am I not just straight Diogenes? Why do I have to be gay? Anyway, I will not be going to Paradise tonight. Oh, horror. You should... What? Oh, the horror. You deserve to be called an anti-Semitic terrorist supporter, Russian plan, or at least commie tanky. Why doesn't he call you any of those things? Lies? Oh, thank you. Anyway, that's it. There's no gaming tonight, unfortunately. I apologize, but there will be gaming tomorrow. Like I said, I downloaded Kingdom Come Deliverance, and so of course I will be testing it out to see if it's woke or not woke. And of course, we also have the Elon Musk Donald Trump 2-parter doubleheader interview. The article said you were a gamer. That was a lie. There's there's more articles too. There's more media stuff to come. I suspect down the line. I mean, I did. The funniest thing about the Slate article is that like it came out a lot faster than all these other articles that have been in motion for like months since immediately after the election. It takes a long time for major publications to make stuff, you know, to put stuff out there. Funniest thing was all the glazing. Chat. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to keep it $1.50. Maybe I'm engaging in a little bit of self-glazing. But like, I think these guys are just, I think you're so used to me getting constantly dookied on by incredibly hostile and malicious people that want to portray me in a negative light, that whenever someone writes an article that's like somewhat positive, you're like, this is glaze. To be fair, I also with the except, like, this is what keeps me. It's just so funny to see the way you're regarded by real political figures and compared out to the delusional fantasies of your obsessed haters, and they're just crashing out constantly. I know, but look, I will always repeat the same thing over and over again. I wish everybody well. You know, I have no enemies. I just want people to be happy, because I do truly believe that if you achieve happiness, if you achieve fulfillment, if you are truly fulfilled, okay, with what you're doing, you will not be crashing out this much. Like, that's not like a message for any individual person either. It's a universal message. Nah, some of your enemies should be jailed. Okay, there's a lot of, but that's not my fault. You know what I mean? They're doing that to themselves. Did you buy her designer dog off Sense? Nah, I got her off Grailed. I went to Grailed. But once again, tomorrow is another day. Jedi Hi, thank you for the 10 gifted. In Rainbow 09, thank you for the 5 gifted. Yeah, I lowballed on Grailed using the Michael Reeves AI tool. Does more of these articles get you more prominence with normies in the world? Maybe. I don't know. Probably. Probably not. I don't know. Like, no disrespect to these guys. I think I obviously very much still have a lot of respect for mainstream publications. But I would go so far as to say that I think like going on a podcast probably has more motion, especially if a podcast with like dedicated clippers on TikTok probably gets you more momentum and more motion than like a legacy publisher piece. But it's entirely dependent. I mean, it's boomers read this stuff, so it's an entirely different audience, basically. Certainly not an audience that would probably come in and find me on Twitch. But you never know. But also, articles like this, including podcast appearances that I make, are good because you can show your friends in a very easy to consume format, like kind of what I'm about. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. Like, because there's just so much like nonsense on clips and shit on Twitter. It's a very easy way to cut through that noise to be like, yeah, all of that's bullshit. Here, read this article instead. Does that make sense? Not gonna lie, was a Brianna Wu fan for a while, but she went off the rails in the last year and a half. Many people did, but it's funny to openly admit that you were a Brianna Wu fan. Like, I respect you for that courage. This is how that goes.